Hello everyone, welcome to the Northland Artists Conversation. My name is Mark Kelly. I am your host, your guide, your intrepid explorer as we discover some of the amazing artists that we have in Northland, New Zealand, but also that pop in and out of the region as well from time to time. And we do have a lot. So these podcasts that we're going to have for May are going to be a little bit different, going to be a little bit exciting. They're going to be something that we haven't done before, but it was suggested to me by a former podcast guest. I'm going to go to my camera now, looking lovely, thank you. So May. In 2020, the New Zealand government created something called New Zealand Music Month. And this year, the 2025, it is its official 25th year anniversary. And as someone who was involved in the music scene, I was actually able to benefit from New Zealand Music Month. And we've had some amazing artists or musicians that have actually been on. So this month, for the month of May, we're going to highlight some of those amazing New Zealand artists that we've, or New Zealand musicians, Northland musicians that we've had on. So we're going to do them over the space of 5 weeks. As it turns out, there's 5 weeks, or 5 Thursdays in May. So this will be the first episode. We're going to focus on some of the amazing local talent and also an international as well. So for this month, we're going to feature Andrew MacKenzie of the local hip-hop collective OBC. They've actually just released their Crate EP and are working on new material at the moment. Very exciting. We've also got Brent Strathdee-Pehi. Now Brent sort of lives outside of Northland, but he comes in. He lives. He sort of comes into the Paihia Bay of Islands area. He's got a friend that he does a lot of writing with as well, so he's very important. We're going to have the mighty Jon Toogood on. Now, Jon and his band Shihad have just finished up their last ever tour. Got to see them down in Auckland at Spark Arena and just had an amazing time. When we caught up with Jon, he was doing a short tour to promote his solo work. We've then got the first of 2 interviews with Maggie Cocco. This was the original one that we sort of did with her quite early on. Maggie is sort of a folk singer, but she wears a lot of different musical genre hats. Super cool. And the last person is sort of local bass legend and guru, Matt Sheppard. So we're going to sit down and we're going to basically just chop up a few clips from these different artists or musicians talking about their time in New Zealand music, their experiences, the scene, and that sort of stuff. So let's sit down and have a conversation with these wonderful artists to celebrate New Zealand Music Month #1. Kind of knows, well, I can do this and I can contribute that and I'm good with this part.
Yeah.
And OBC itself is formed, right?
Yeah.
In the I guess in the way that most people that know OBC will be aware of it today. When you first started out, did you have like, I want to tick this milestone, I want to tick that milestone, I want to be able to do this and that? Or did you go, I want to do an album, I want to do a tour? Did you guys have goals, or were you just like, we're just going to make music and everyone's going to love it?
Short answer, no goals.
No goals.
No goals.
No
just
goals.
The goal was such an overarching, unmetricable, I guess if that's a word. You couldn't measure it. We just wanted to blow up. We were young and dumb and just thought that would happen.
Right.
So that was kind of our goal. So it's kind of, I'd have to like tell the story to give it context.
Go.
So after I left school and after all, we didn't split, like go our separate ways. We all kept in touch. Steve kind of hit me up to make more music, and we were like, we were making it off and on. And me and Dan and Steve started making music together with Ants. And then Alex Gilbert kind of came back, and then he kind of went away, did his own thing, went off on a whole different journey.
Yeah.
We had another guy called Lou Gia who came in, but he just wasn't a fit, and so he went away. I don't know where he ended up, But he could make music, but it just was not like what we were making. He was making real Linkin Park sounding, almost emo rap.
Yeah, that
so
kind
like
of
we
new
were just
metal
like,
style
nah,
stuff,
bro,
yeah.
we write about drinking and having a good time, you know. So,
which is reflected, I think, probably in your earlier work, right?
Yeah. So he came and went, and then we had a guy named ATAC who came along, and he was more on our vibe. He's a bit more aggressive though, a bit more of a battle rapper, which he ended up doing a lot of in Aussie. He was the brother to Causa, who was like a local legend in Whangarei.
Oh, okay.
So Causa, for those who don't know, they call him the Māori Tupac. So I'll show you a video after this, but yeah. So ATAC came from there, and we were like, oh, he knows Causa, so that was kind of draw as well.
For people that might be
shit.
interested, they can go onto YouTube, and how do we spell Causa?
Korza.
Korza, all right.
Yeah.
And is there a particular track?
I can't remember the name of it.
Okay,
but he had one track that blew up in those early days,
right?
Of our journey. So
yeah, so it'd be good. You know, if anyone's for people, not anyone, for people that are watching and listening, have a look at YouTube and look up Causa, because you'll see a lot of what Andrew's referencing. Yeah.
So Josh came, and then he clicked up with Alex Gilbert at the time, and there was a bit of beef between us and that crew.
Yeah.
So it was all orchestrated behind the scenes by Alex kind of voice changing himself. It was really weird. We were just kids playing around with technology, and he just used it to manipulate us in ways, and it was kind of like, come on, bro.
Right,
so
okay.
I'm not afraid to say that. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Like, so
you guys didn't start sounding like T-Pain or anything?
Oh, hell no. We hated autotune. We hated mumble rap at the time. We called it mumble rap. It was fucking Lil Wayne, and Lil Wayne's held up there as like, everyone's like, he's top three, because they rank people in rap.
Yes.
So he's top three. He's the GOAT, you know. But for me and my crew, we were like, fuck that music. Like, it just wasn't relevant. Like I say, we wrote shit to be relatable to people from our area. We wanted to blow up in our hometown, to be honest, but we wanted to take it worldwide as well.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a lot of that going on. Some weird music coming out at the time, and we were kind of beefing a bit. We made a few tracks, we kind of went away again, and then we came together. Me, Steve, and Ants. And ATAC had gone with a guy that I grew up with, Jesse, and started a new crew.
Yeah.
Which is cool. They called themselves Final Attack, which I think is a fucking cool name.
It's a great name.
But, and they made some fucking good music. Like, when they started making it and we were making it, we were like, let's collab. And those collabs turned into, let's just do everything together. And so that's how kind of OBC, the real OBC formed.
Yeah.
Was me.
So it's an amalgamation of OBC and Final Attack, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
And that was what was cool too. Like, they had all their own page and everything, and we were just propping each other up.
Yeah.
As far as we knew at the time, we were the only ones doing stuff in Whangarei.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because it was on at the very beginning of social media.
Yeah.
So our pages had 2,000 likes for 11 years. Put it that way.
Right. Also, was there much of a hip hop scene in Whangarei
not at the time.
Northland?
So there was K54 rolling around, and I don't know what I don't know much about them, to be honest.
Okay.
But ATAC probably knows more about them than me, to be honest. There was K54. There was the Melodic crew, who one of the members, I think we ended up meeting most of them later on, years later.
Yeah.
Tinara no Mahanga, he's one of them. He's gifted, like a gifted hip-hop artist. Other than that, I'm not too sure at that time. This is, once again, like 2010, 2011. And I like to kind of think, and this is going to be me blowing my own trumpet, but what we released in 2011 kind of blew us up.
Yeah, okay.
It was played on the radio, it was played on TV, and we were just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, wow.
So, and then the scene kind of came alive after that, because I think people started seeking us out.
Yeah, sure.
So that was cool. We met YD, which is Ryan Donaldson. He was another rapper that there's a lot of underrated kind of talent in Whangarei.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was another one doing it at the time, and I approached him He was kind of shy. He was doing stuff with another guy called Justy as well, and he was really good too. And I approached them, and they were kind of like, a bit too forward for them. I was like, let's make some music, let's do something, let's do a gig, bro.
That young want to do anything, right?
Yeah, but from that point on, we took it more serious. So we got our first gig, I think 2011-ish, and then, you know, we were like, shit, we actually enjoy this. Let's just chase it. We got all the time in the world. I was a part-time trolley boy at the time studying. Yeah. So, like, I had too much time. Yeah. And Steve had just finished studying and come back, and he was living in a flat in Whangarei and working at Pack and Save, which is where I worked as well. Ants was doing his own thing and kind of... I'm not sure. He always lived in a bit of limbo, that guy. So he was kind of just doing his own thing, and ATAC was, you know, he was a bit younger. Oh, he's a year younger than us. I always think he's like the little brother of the crew but he's definitely not, like, in terms of skill. I'm not dissing you, bro. Don't hurt me. But I've always looked at him like he's younger than us, but he's actually our age. So he was living at home, and I think he was just writing raps and making beats in his spare time. Like, that guy, when he gets on work ethic, man, he can churn out like fuck. I don't know how he does it. He just beat after beat after beat. He did it for a few weeks this year, and I was like, fuck, I can't keep up with this.
Right,
bro.
wow.
So he put his production into overdrive, and we were making music with both Steve and ATAX Beats, and then we just had this idea, like, let's change it. Let's soften our stance a little bit, because we were doing just predominantly, we want to be hip hop, we want to be underground. Yeah. And that's when Summertime Vibe came around,
which is a great song. I listened to it quite a bit.
Crack up. Yeah. So it's still our most listened to track.
It's really accessible. Yeah. Some great hooks in there and really good melodies.
Yeah, no, for sure. We made that track, and at the time there was a guy doing drift footage up here.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I'm going to approach this guy and see if he'll do music videos. And I said, we'll just put our money together, what little we have, and we'll just try and pay for whatever he does. And he goes, nah, I'll work for free for you because you're a local. So he, that's how we met Kenny Ruddle.
Oh, okay.
So he went on to build Oversteer TV into the behemoth it is now, working for D1NZ and stuff. So
that's huge.
Yeah, he's an incredible, I don't know, it must just be his work ethic, you know, because like he was an incredible asset to us, and he still kind of is. I mean, he pretty much blew us up with Summertime Vibe. Yeah. He gave us at the time a music video that was TV quality. You know, it was 720p.
Wow. Yeah.
So just to date it again.
Exactly. It's going back a few years.
Yeah. So we did that, and man, we launched that, and I remember vividly because we launched that as a part of an album called Deadly with the Melodies. Okay. And we were all up at Jessie's mum's house because she was away, and me, ATAC, Steve. We were at Nathan's house, my mate Nathan's house, because he wanted to have the launch party at his house. He owned his house. He was the one that kind of got ahead before everyone else, right? Yeah. And we were sitting there and we posted it on SoundCloud, and then we closed the laptop and we left it for like 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. Got on the piss heavy. And I was like, fuck it, I got to cure this itch. I'm going to go and see how it's doing. And we had over 1,000 plays on each track in 3 hours.
Wow.
And I was like, I go, Jesse, come have a look at this. And we just looked at each other. It's nothing you could say. Like, you got to understand, this is social media in its infancy. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess it was probably better back then because there was no AI algorithms and shit. And like, if you said something in 2008, they're going to pin your posts down now. Yeah. Kind of thing. It was just pure. When you launched something, it went straight to the top of the feed, and then if someone else posted, it kind of got pushed down. Yeah. And I reckon that was the best, most natural way you could do it. And so when we released this, it went like, it blew up. It was crazy. Because Ryan Cocco was over here. Sorry, I've forgotten about him.
I was going to say, and this is the first time we've mentioned Ryan.
Ryan Cocco was our singer on that hook. My bad. Yeah, he's probably the reason that track blew up. He sung the hook. He wrote the hook. He's another extremely talented guy. Yeah. I knew him from school, and I knew he sang, and I approached him to sing the hook on that. So, that track, really blew us up. And so Ryan kind of after that, he got on to, when What Now came to Whangarei, they approached him to perform.
Oh, wow.
It kind of lifted him as well and showed
Yeah.
him what he was capable of. But for us, it was like, we were like, shit, what do we do now? So
Yeah.
we just didn't have a clue. And it kind of was like, another album. So this is what we did next, was went into another album, which... Yeah, that album, it was called The Bakery Sessions. It was named after Jesse's car. He named it The Bakery.
Right.
So you can pick up the reasoning.
Well, yes.
So he called it The Bakery, and we wrote and reviewed every track in that car. Had the shittiest sound system. Like, obviously Steve was mastering after the fact.
Yeah.
But we would sit in that car for hours and write. Like, I never smoked, so it was really
You never
weird.
partook of the bakery?
No,
Okay.
no. So, it was mainly Jesse and Steve and ATAC.
Right, okay.
At that time. And we kind of hit this really weird, I guess it's just that sophomore trouble. You know, your sophomore
that
album's
second
always
album.
a bit of a slap.
Yeah.
Like, not to say we didn't have any good tracks, but it just didn't pack the essence that the first album, I guess, did initially.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were all rapping for real for the first time on that first album, and to try and follow that up immediately. So we released Deadly with the Melodies in 2011, and by 2013 we had the Bakery Sessions done.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
wow.
Yeah. And, that we were gigging hard. I don't know if we were at that time, actually. But gigging kind of really ramped up when we realised we liked performing. But we did a few gigs. It was all local. We'd never been paid for gigs. It was like it was all like charity events and stuff we were doing. You know, hip hop didn't have its place in Whangarei. That came along a lot later. So
back then, I considered myself young, but nowadays, you know, like, kids are getting in super young and blowing up and burning out at 18. So it's sort of like a different world now, but then 19 was still young.
Yeah, man.
You know, I was still a kid. So I got into music, and I was in Paonu for a year. I learned to play guitar, and I learned to play by ear, and I got, you know, for a bedroom guitarist, I got pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Wellington the next year, and that's when I formed a band with a guy I met and started to have my first formative real experiences.
Oh, wow.
You know, starting with party gigs,
Yeah.
turning into like small bar gigs or all ages hall gigs,
Yeah.
and like being around and being in Wellington in 96, 7, 8, which is the years I lived there, was a really awesome time for local music. Like already the likes of Shihad and Head Like a Hole were like iconic. They were big,
yeah.
but they came from that.
Yep.
They were just a few years earlier, so they would already.
Yeah,
but there was a lot of great local bands of which most people will never know about,
Nah.
and they didn't become household names by any means, but a great scene, and also the venues were good, and it was really cool, and it was a great time, and I, you know, my first kid band highlight was to support Shihad in an orientation show, and also come to Auckland and play an orientation show.
Was that on the
that was really cool.
Killjoy album?
Would have been Fish album.
Fish
actually.
album,
It was Fish by
man.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were on Fish, and it was an epic. Like it was, and we used their gear. Like we were just little bloody wannabes.
Yeah.
And to play with Shihad and use their gear purely because it was more convenient for them that we used their
Yeah,
gear instead
absolutely.
of lugging it on and off.
Yeah.
And like to be in a green room with those guys and then watch their set and really
Yeah.
just marvel. And it was inspiring. And you know, I've seen lots and lots of bands since, but that was to be playing with them, because you know I'd already seen lots of gigs, but to actually be part of that gig, and that felt really real. Like, wow, you know, we made it, you know. And so that was fun. I came back to Auckland in the late 90s. I became a dad and had a, you know, life, and I decided to study, and I was, you know, like just struggling with life as you do when you're young. But then got carried on with music and just kept going, you know. Kept going,
nice.
And then in different genres, I joined a band called D.W. Brown, which is like this rootsy Latin funk kind of music.
Yeah.
And that was I'd switched to bass, and I was enjoying that, and I joined the band, and we did heaps of stuff. We did national tours, and we did Velvet and deep hard and funky kind of parties, like dance scene, as well as our own residency at St. Anu in Ponsonby. We played every Friday, and that, like, playing a residency, playing live constantly, was actually a really good formative thing too, as opposed to playing a gig every now and then. you know.
Live is where it's at, man.
And to play like a lot, like, you know, a lot of musicians I think say this, like one gig is worth 20 rehearsals.
Yeah.
So if you can play every night for 3 weeks, like New Zealand's small, so it's not like we can go on these hella runs,
massive tours. No.
Even the big bands can't do that. So like, you know, but if you can play, you know, 6 gigs in a month in New Zealand and not be a big band, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate to be in a situation like that, and that I got a lot of live experience. I met people, I had fun, or, you know, whatever, and played every hole in the wall in New Zealand. Played every dump. You know, I've been in all of them and loved it. I have fond memories of all of it. And then and then around 02, definitely by 03, I'd moved towards hip hop and production and DJing and scratching and turntablism, and I got deeply into that world because I'd been inspired by something I'd heard. I'd loved hip hop music already as a fan ever since Public Enemy and all of that, but so I got into turntablism, and I never got into the battle scene. I was never like I was never super good, but I was good enough that I could I DJ'd a lot, and I scratched on the records that we made, and you know, and I loved it. And I hip hop, I still to this day love hip hop. It's still I've never been a genre
elitist
devotee where it's like, you know, that's what I'm into, that,
and
everyone else is the enemy.
I wish I could say otherwise.
I mean, you know, I've had moments of it. Like, I was a rock kid in high school, like 6th, 7th form. Well, I never did 7th form. What am I talking about?
5th and 6th form.
5th, 6th form. The end of school. I was a rock dude. It was the grunge era. I was, you know, I was plaid shirts and long hair and a flimsy goatee, you know. That you could wash off with a hot flannel.
But, with the Doc Martens.
All that.
And
did
the
all that.
Jeans. I did that too.
And that was So maybe I got tribal in that phase. But I never stopped liking hip hop and whatever I wanted to like. There was no guilty pleasures. I just like whatever I want. You know, and and I'm still like that. But anyway, I got into hip hop and went and that it was weird. I sort of like I got into it because I liked the music, but I didn't because I'd come from the band scene. I wasn't coming from a hip hop circle of people. I didn't know any rappers. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anything even about what I was doing. I was just faking it, you know. And then, but it got into. And then me and a guy made some demos in my bedroom in Mangere Bridge in Auckland in 03. It was 03. We made these demos, and that was still 03 was still like there were record labels and there was indie labels and there was major. There was still this concept that people might get signed.
Getting signed.
Those days are long gone. But that time that was still a reality, and we didn't care. Like we weren't like, we're gonna make it. We made some demos, like I think 2 or 3 songs. We put them on, burnt them on a CD, and I posted them off to some labels and didn't care what happened. Like I was just like, but then we had 3 labels get back real quickly.
Oh, wow.
Like indie labels. One was 833 Records.
Okay.
One was Capitol Recordings, which we ended up making a deal with. And I forget the other one. Might have just been not even a label. It might have been a radio station or something. I don't know who it was. But we got some interest.
Yeah, nice.
And it was like, I was shocked because I was like, well, they don't actually realize I'm bullshitting here. I don't even know what I'm doing. Like I made these beats on this little machine that I like making out. I know what I do, but I don't know what I'm doing. Literally, like I'm just faking it till I make it. And then, but they were like, these are really, really good. And so we ended up just like following our noses on it. Like, oh well, if you think it's good, then so do we.
Yeah.
And so we went along, and then we I mean, we liked it. It wasn't like we thought it was crap and then someone else told us otherwise. It was more that people wanted to put it out. Like, that was like, what? Like, okay, you guys, sweet.
Yeah, you guys like what we do?
Yeah. You like more than just us like it, you know? Like, so anyway, we did this deal with this label called Capitol Recordings based in Wellington. We were in Auckland. We were the first, maybe even only artists that they signed outside of Wellington, because they had done Jet Jaguar, Flash Harry, which is Barnaby
Weir.
Barnaby Weir. He had a
Fly
project,
My Pretties.
Yep, all that.
Yep.
He had a project called Flash Harry, and they had done some records with him. They did. I'm forgetting some of the other artists. They're like mostly like in the dance or indie vein. Like it was an independent record label, so we're not talking pop music.
No,
it was like unusual music. So we were the first ones out that were hip hop, and the first ones outside of Wellington. And so they signed this deal with us to make an album, and a series of singles. So because in those days you still
had
doing
singles.
a single,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you
yeah.
were like building to this album. It was like very old school compared to now. So we made 2 vinyl records. We had a single called Jump Up that was on vinyl. We played Top of the Pops, and then we played the rounds. Like, we did all these things that, like, promotional things, because Capitol was actually really well run for a small label.
Yeah.
They had a vision. They had networks, because Jason, I forget his surname. He's passed away sadly just quite recently, but Clinton Smiley was his DJ name in Wellington. He was a guy about town. He knew everybody, and he had the connections. And him and Brent Strathdee-Pehi had started that label. So long story short, he lined up all these promotional activities for us.
Nice.
And we played Top of the Pops, and we played Sports Cafe. When we played Sports Cafe, because what happened, Sports Cafe used to have this process where every week a different band or artist or singer would come on and do like interludes.
Yep.
You're not actually featured so much.
You kind of do like bits before
someone,
the break.
welcome,
or after
Jonah
the break.
Lomu.
Yeah.
You know, and you perform for like 20 seconds, if that.
Yeah.
And then shut up. And you know, next guest and then at the end of the show, you would actually get to perform a song. And the Sports Cafe dancers, you know, the chicks, they would dance to whatever the music was. I mean, they had to look like they liked it, you know. But anyway,
they did.
We did it. We did it once, like everyone just did it once, kind of thing, and then you know that was it. And then they asked us back, a third time, and then someone said to Capitol Recordings, probably, who were sort of like de facto managers, because we were signed to them.
Yeah.
So they had said, "Oh, we want those guys to actually just be the resident musicians."
Wow.
Those guys suits what we do. It probably works efficiently for them too, because it's just 2 guys.
Yep.
Like it's logistically practical.
Yep. And you're not having to get in all these new
bands
temperamental artists all the time.
and
It's
deal
like,
with different people every week.
These dudes, they're cool. Let's
cool.
just stick with them.
Yep. And the music works, and they look, you know, I don't know if we look cool, but we
Look the part.
We look the part, whatever.
Yeah.
So we did it, and the next season we were just the resident musicians. So every week, and that was a live Sports Cafe was a live show.
That was.
So we had to go to queues, and that there was no mucking up, you know. You had to be ready to roll on the queue because it was live. So we did that the next season. We had a radio show at the same time on Base FM every week. We used to actually, I think it was every Wednesday, Sports Cafe. So we used to have our radio show on Base FM. Then we would go to St James Theatre in Auckland and do Sports Cafe.
Man.
That was the venue when we were doing it. So I had all these great experiences. I was DJing all the time. Making a semi-living from DJing, actually, a club DJing.
Yeah.
I don't have the energy for it these days. I'm too old.
It's a hard life.
You know, I'm a day person, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, so hip hop, I went hard, and then around 07, it would have been 07. We'd already put our album out. We had sort of done our run. You know, things have their lifespan.
They do, yeah.
Me and my mate had a great run, and we had fun, and we were good mates, and we didn't break up or like fall out. We just ran out.
Yeah,
and,
it ran its course.
Yeah, it ran its course. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And I was also itching to get back into live music again, like live playing.
Like performing.
Instruments, bands,
yeah.
live music. And not because I didn't like hip hop and all that. It was just, I loved it. But I just had the itch.
Yeah.
So I formed a band which we called Hangman, and we wrote music, and we did Red Bull live sessions. We did an album. We toured. We actually got famously, I'm telling you it's famous because now I'm telling you, but we got ripped off, man. We got ripped off big time. It really was. It was a big learning experience for myself and my bandmates, I guess, in the industry. Like, this was the MySpace days, right? So
I know
so
them.
MySpace was big. People were putting their music online. It was becoming accessible.
We were part of that era as well.
Yeah, but it became, I didn't realize, but it was actually like a wild west as well, because I'll tell you what happened. I started fielding, because I was running the band MySpace page.
Yeah.
So I started getting these messages going, man, bro, yeah, your music's mean, bro. Like, we were like, your band's awesome. We saw you on the motocross DVD, blah, awesome, man. And I'm thinking, my first thought was, they've got the wrong Hangman.
Yeah,
There's
motocross
probably
DVD.
some other, what? Like, and then, but I got more and more like messages, and I was like, what's going on here? So I had to ask someone who's giving me a compliment, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then they said, the Freerider MX Motocross has a DVD and it's awesome. And I was like, and your music's on it. And I was like, nah, you got it wrong. But anyway, I did a bit of homework, a bit of Google, and lo and behold, Freerider MX, which is, I don't know if they're still around, they're an Australian-based Freerider community glossy magazine, like it's a real deal magazine, and they had done a New Zealand tour of professional motocross, whatever, jumper riders.
Yeah.
And they had filmed a DVD for this, like, you know how magazines in the days would give away a DVD?
Oh, you get a
The
CD
free-
or a DVD,
yeah,
the
bonus,
little free one.
bonus disc.
Yeah.
And it was the New Zealand Tour bonus disc DVD.
Oh my God.
And guess who provided the whole soundtrack?
No.
Yep.
With no clearance.
Zero. Not even a courtesy.
Yeah.
Not even tell me you're going to rip me off. You
Yeah.
know, like it was just, they just put all of our music and named us. It wasn't like they were trying to hide it as something
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
It was like Hangman and like. So but it already happened. It had happened. It was like the cat was out the bag. I went down to my local magazine store because I'm not into freestyle motocross,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
wasn't never going to find it organically.
Yeah, you're not going to go down to the mag store and go, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's not the
That's
magazine.
my music.
Exactly. It's not the store's fault. They got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I discovered that they had actually used, and my first thought when I clicked, they have taken our music, is that it's a snippet. You know,
Yeah.
there might be 30 seconds and they didn't ask us. And that would have been bad enough.
Yeah.
But no. It was 4 whole songs.
Wow.
It was like the whole soundtrack to the whole DVD, which was, a 20-minute DVD or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a movie. So I was appalled and kind of, but weirdly flattered.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all the music they could have stolen, they stole mine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's weird. I should be angry legally.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of flattered that they thought our music suited what they were doing.
definitely.
So I wasn't super duper emotionally angry. I was just more like, hey, can they do that? Like, what?
Yeah.
So I decided I have to do due diligence and find out what's going on. So I went and booked a session. Do you remember Chris Hockard?
Yes.
He was New Zealand's like premier entertainment
Yeah.
lawyer.
Yeah.
And he used to have a show on BFM. I only knew about him because on BFM he had like a weekly Q&A
Yeah.
slot on the radio, and you could ring in. And so I didn't want to just ring in. So I booked a session with him.
Yeah.
And I went in and I sat down with him in his office and I said, well, this has happened, and told him the story. And he hummed and hawed, and he pretty quickly they said, well, it's a clear breach of copyright. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like it's not, they stole your music and I can launch a suit and I can do this and that. And
Yeah.
probably I can't remember the figures he threw around. It might have been 10, 20 grand or whatever. I don't know. I'm pulling that number out of the sky. But he said, I can. But he needed 2 or 3 grand up front from my end for his legal fees,
Retainer fees.
and I just didn't have it.
Nah.
I just didn't have it, and it was just like, and mixed with that feeling of like, it's already done. And now, what am I going to do? A dude in a bedroom in Auckland's going to like sue a big magazine, like, probably owned by bloody Rupert Murdoch or something.
Yeah,
Behind
yeah.
like what? All I'm going to do is create my own headache with money I don't have,
Yeah.
and potentially make an enemy, not a friend. So I was trying to
Yeah.
make a positive out of it. That's the long and short of it, I should say. And I decided I'll get back in touch with that magazine. Oh. By the way, the magazine's response was when I messaged them, because I find them online. They've got a big website, fancy.
Yep.
And I messaged them and I say, "You've done this. This is what you've done. This is I'm who I am, and that's what you did."
Yeah.
Oh, really? The music supervisor didn't ask you, like with a question mark? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. Nah, I didn't know anything.
Nah.
And so they just played ignorant.
Yeah.
So I ended up trying to salvage something out of it. And I said, well, the least you buggers can do is do a profile on us in the next issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I want a full page colour interview photo.
Yeah.
Not because I suddenly had big ideas that the freestyle motocross scene is going to like make us crack it. But it was a desperate attempt at something. Like you owe me that.
Yeah.
Like you owe us that. And they did it. To their credit, the next issue, whatever, a couple of months later, had the full spread, and it ultimately meant little. It ultimately meant little to nothing, because it wasn't like I say, it wasn't as if that's going to crack us. It was, but it was they came to the party and scratched our backs, to some extent. So it was the big lesson was not that music and that magazine. It was that this industry, all sorts can happen, especially in the digital world. Maybe now it's a bit better and it's more. I don't know. I don't care as much anymore either.
Welcome to AI.
Oh, exactly. Things get more open-ended.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the term. But anyway, it's all. I don't have bad feelings about it. Like I didn't cry about it. It was more, oh well, it happened. Again, I just rested on the idea that our music was good enough that they used it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
They saw it as appropriate, and then we were influenced a bit by that, maybe in the sense that we thought, well, our music does suit extreme sport then, probably.
Yeah.
Snowboarding, skating, motorcycles.
Yeah,
It was
freestyle
like,
motocrossing,
and we
yeah.
sort of like, we thought, well, maybe that will be a good target market, started getting a bit industry-like about it. It's just, it was a good learning curve. Yeah, yeah.
The Jon Toogood material is. Are we looking at you just as yourself and a guitar, or do you have other artists that are?
I have other artists. So basically, so what happened was I made a record in my basement in Howick, of all fucking places, and basically kept it to acoustic guitar and vocal. I gave myself that limitation, and sometimes limitation for a songwriter is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that doesn't quite work, does it? In a band situation, I could go, yeah, but if you played a sprinkly bit of guitar over here and you played that on there, that would cover up that thing not being perfect.
Yeah.
Where is this? It's like, oh, that doesn't work, so I'm going to have to find something else.
Right.
So everything was based around, does it work on an acoustic guitar from start to finish? Does it still have dynamics? Does it still come down? Does it still pay off?
Yep.
So it meant that I had to write in a different way, which is great. And then afterwards I went, oh, cool, I'm going to have a little play on a piano. Cool, I'm going to have play on a bass, because bass is my favorite guitar. That's my favorite instrument, because that is the song, right?
Yeah.
Bass is actually the song, but you don't know it, and that is what it is.
Yeah, bass is what kind of drives everything.
Bass is what tells you. It's not only the rhythm section, but it's the thing that tells you we're now in a pre-chorus, we're now in a chorus,
yeah.
we're now in a verse. So it is. It's the scaffold of the song. So bass is great. So I played bass, and then I pretty much, because I spent a bit of money on, like, I've got a Neve preamp, and I've got a distressor, and I've got an SM7, which is basically the vocal chain I use in Vancouver at the fucking most expensive recording session. It's recording studio.
Little
There
Mountain
is
Studios or something.
Yeah. I mean, so basically, I've got that vocal chain. So all the vocals I tracked were pretty good quality.
Yeah.
The guitars were pretty good quality, because I've got a nice guitar, and I just put that through that chain. So I went into Warner's and went, oh, fuck, I've written these songs.
Yeah.
To me, it ended up sounding a little bit like, I really like Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska, right? I love that fucking record, right?
Yeah.
That was the demos he wrote, and then they tried to record it with a band, and it fucking never worked, and so they released the demos, right? Because it's got a vibe, and it definitely has a vibe, right? So I went, yeah, cool, and they fucking fell in love with it. This is a record company we've been with for 20 years, So, and they were like, do you want to do something to it? I was like, well, I wouldn't mind just hearing another person's take on it.
Yeah, sure.
So around the time of Beautiful Machine, we worked with a producer called Scott Horscroft, who's a Australian. He produced Empire of the Sun.
Oh, yep.
He co-wrote Silverchair's Straight Lines.
Oh, that's a great,
fucking awesome song.
Wow,
it's like
that's
my
an
favorite.
amazing
It's like my
song,
favorite
man.
Silverchair song, right?
Yeah.
So really, and a really good departure from the rock thing,
Yeah.
but beautiful. And so we were working with him at the start of Beautiful Machine, and he was pushing us down this pop path, and I think I balked. And went, oh, this is just a bit too much at the time. I'd never done that, and so we ended up not working with him. But I did keep mental note.
Yeah,
in my head. This guy's fucking talented, but just wasn't right for me then.
Yeah.
But I thought, oh fuck, I'm gonna send it to Scott.
Yeah, nice.
And I sent it to him, and he came back. He's exactly the same age as me. He's got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh!
And it's fucking bizarre. It's just like, he comes back and he goes, this is the best lyrics I've heard from anyone for the last fucking 10 years.
Wow.
And because I've just been producing all these fucking rock bands, and it's like, come over and I'll just get a bunch of fucking young musos to have a little tutu.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. I flew, he owns the Grove Studios, which is where Shihad recorded Old Gods.
Yep.
It used to belong to Gary Beers, or whatever the fuck his name is, from In Excess.
Oh, yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's in the fucking countryside in the Central Coast, beautiful part of the country, and it's an amazing studio. He has a amazing Yamaha grand piano set up in this room with $20,000 Neumann mics, micing it up, and he just gets a young pianist to come in. The guy goes, okay, I think I'd do this. And I'm blah, blah, blah. And he just started playing. I was like, oh my God, all of a sudden it's just three-dimensional.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, because I left all that space, because it's basically just a vocal and guitar,
Yep.
we've got all the space to color
Yeah.
in.
Lot of-
And because the scaffold's solid,
Yep.
it means that you can go wherever. So he, after a day of working with him, he was like, I've got a mate who plays violin. Shall I bring her in? I was like, fucking do it.
Yeah.
And because I'm a bit older and because I've done things like the adults, I've learned how to get out the fucking way.
Yep. Right.
And I don't want to go, I think you should play this, because
Yeah.
he's a piano player. I'm not a fucking piano
Yeah,
player.
right.
She's a violinist.
Yeah.
So I'm not a violinist. So what would you do? It's great. So I sit back and just watch them just paint over this painting that I've already done. And I just went, this is fucking amazing. You know, like, yeah.
Is it a bit of the letting go of the control?
Yeah,
that you had
totally
as
letting
well?
go. No, it's about having trust in other
Right,
musicians.
yeah.
And going, well, fuck, let's hear what they've got to fucking
Yeah.
say, you know, like, and I think when a musician has that gets given that permission to express themselves, they bring their fucking A game.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so, and we had a young drummer from a band called Middle Kids, that are sort of big Triple J band, who came in. He's this guy Harry. He's young, and he's like, I just want to say, my dad used to go and watch you in fucking in Manly at the blah blah blah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, he'd be fucking stoked that I'm playing on your record. So he was like from a totally different generation,
Yeah.
but he's like, he just laid down this 70s vibe, man. It's just like sort of Fleetwood Mac, sort of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road sort of era,
Right,
Elton
wow,
John,
yeah,
you know, because
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Nigel Olsson, who plays on that record,
Yeah.
you know, the drummer from that band. And I just went, that's the vibe. And he was like, fucking sweet, boom. And it just sounds great. Sounds great.
What can listeners kind of expect? Because it's not going to be big, bombastic.
No, but it is quite big, though. It's weird. It's like, we ended up, I'm beginning the mixes of going back going, well, that's not where it started out. It actually sounds quite fucking big.
Yeah.
But it's big in a different way. It's
Yeah.
not big distorted guitars big. It's not big room drummy sound big. It's big in melody and lyric.
Yeah.
And it's quite insane how it's turned out to me, because I'm like, it's amazing what a grand piano fucking recorded in a beautiful room.
Oh, yeah, God.
And you've given it space. It's like, fuck, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's big in a different way. It's big in a 52-year-old dude way, you know, like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you know, I can't explain it any better than that.
Big as a man who's lived through some shit.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have been able to write that shit when I was younger.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I hadn't gone through that shit, you know, like,
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have had that thing to draw on, you know. So yeah, I can't wait for people to hear it. And hopefully, I mean, for me, it's just, I need to write music to go there. It's actually okay.
Yeah.
And I hope that's the feeling it gives other people, because this world, as we were talking about off camera before,
Yes.
is fucking crazy, man, at the moment.
It's bonkers.
You know? And I think I've kept it as human as possible, because I think that's what's needed.
I still had a lot of doubt about my ability. I didn't know if I was actually a very good musician or if I was just pliable and you know.
Right, yeah. So able to be molded into something. You know,
Right.
you didn't have that, this is my voice
Right.
thing yet. Okay. Was that from, you know, your dad and kind of what had happened there, or had that kind of been the whole way through?
Part of my star training, one of the things I was taught was that I should be a beautiful blank canvas that anyone could imagine themselves painting on.
Okay, sure.
Right.
That makes no sense.
Right.
Because the great artists have their own voice, and they found their voice really early on.
Right.
Blank canvas, bollocks.
So I feel like I had a voice
Yeah.
that was then stifled through
Okay.
all of this training.
Yeah, sure.
And it was a process of getting back to it, but it's not that I knew for sure that I had it. I had to remember that I had it.
You essentially, you've got to rediscover yourself, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, that's not an overnight journey. That's a period of time
Well,
journey.
everybody's got to discover themselves,
Yeah.
and everybody has conditioning through life that they have to undo. Mine was just at a pretty extreme level. I'd say when I watch when I watch interviews from people who've been in cults and things like that for a long time, I feel a kindred.
Indoctrination.
Yeah, I'm
like Waco, Jim Jones, that sort of stuff. Yeah,
100%.
Charismatic cult leader, and everyone follows him blindly and does what they're told.
It was very much like
right.
that.
Okay. Okay.
So, and funnily enough, how I came to New Zealand, I was still, and this was after I went to San Francisco.
Okay.
So I went to San Francisco, and I wanted to prove to myself that I was actually a good musician.
Yeah.
And San Francisco is the most expensive city in the United States.
Yes, it is.
And essentially, if I couldn't make a living there as a musician, then I figured I might
yeah.
not be a very,
Okay.
maybe I'm not.
That's a hard task to try and achieve, yeah?
I did really well.
Did you? Yeah. Yes!
Thank you.
Yes!
Yeah.
Congratulations, the
Thanks.
happy story. That's
I
awesome!
know. Yeah, so I got there, but I wasn't doing original music.
Okay,
I got there and I started auditioning for bands, like corporate bands. You guys don't really have them here. New Zealand's not quite big enough because it doesn't have enough people to support this kind of
Right,
thing.
yeah,
But essentially, it was like musician rosters that you audition for, and you have to be good enough to show up to a gig and play with musicians that you've never met before.
Right,
a
yeah.
set list that you've been given in advance, no rehearsals or anything like that. It has to be, completely professional. As the singer, I was often the person who was leading the band, so then everybody would have to follow you. So like my very first show that I auditioned, I got in within 3 months of moving to San Francisco, which I later found out that like there's people who've been there who just never get into these bands. So it's luck, it was timing, it was a lot of things, but it was very validating for me. So my very first show, like the bass player was a bass player that plays with Sly and the Family Stone, and the keyboardist was someone who plays with Earth, Wind and Fire and stuff like that. That's just
a hell of a rhythm section.
where these musicians live, right?
Wow.
And these are the gigs that they do
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there, because they pay between $350 and $600 a gig.
Okay, it's not bad.
It's not
Yeah.
bad. US, of course, and and that's and then they cover your travel and your
accommodation,
all that
and
kind
you
of
get per
stuff.
diems and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so it was like it was incredibly validating, and at the same time, I knew that it wasn't something. It wasn't my next lifestyle, my next
sure.
permanent one.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do my music,
Yeah.
and also, and I had to do this. I really had to hustle to do, to do
Yeah.
this and to
Yeah.
pay the rents there and all that kind of stuff. But I learned a lot, and I played with a lot of really amazing musicians, and I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity to come to New Zealand. I had a few different opportunities, but the one that changed my life in this direction was I had an opportunity to come to New Zealand to open for Billy TK. Billy
TK, the guitarist. Wow.
Not the senior, junior.
The junior.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So you remember how I said those kinds of people still kind of came up?
Yes.
They
still pop up every
still
now
pop
and
up
then.
every-
Wow.
And
That's look, I'll be honest. Sly Family Stone, Earth, Wind and Fire. I love the song September. And Billy TK Jr.
right. No, I know. It's just
I mean, he's good.
Right.
He's good. Not Earth, Wind and Fire.
I know.
But good.
Well, what appealed to me was he came to a gig of mine in San Francisco and was like, "Hey, how would you like to come open for me in New Zealand?" And I've always wanted to travel, and I've been very fortunate to have gotten to do a little bit of it, but I don't come from money, and
Yeah,
we
sure.
didn't travel growing
Yeah.
up, so I've always wanted to, but I've always had a very vague notion of what traveling even is because I didn't have the experience.
Never really done it.
Yeah, I was like, but I'd love to do it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And I told myself, and I don't know, I've stuck by it, not necessarily intentionally, just because it's part of the lifestyle, but I've told myself, you're going to get to travel, but you're going to do it through music. It's always going to be you're invited to go someplace.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
like, my first international tour was in Ireland because somebody saw me performing in a bar and was like, I will pay for you to come play in Ireland. So I did that.
Wow.
And that's how I've done most of my tours. This people who've seen me playing places go, I want you to do that over there. And so
Yeah.
that's where I go. So I'd done it before. And so Billy came to one of my shows and was like, you're going to come open for me in New Zealand. But also, people offer these things frequently and nothing
That
happens.
never- you're right, yeah, it
that
never
never actually
eventuates. Yeah.
manifest,
Yeah.
you know? So I'm always like, yeah, cool. But also I'll believe it
Yeah.
when I see it, kind
Grain
of
of
thing.
salt type
But
thing, yeah.
it has happened.
Yeah.
You know, actually, that's how I've done all of my traveling so far. So within a few weeks, I actually had a ticket to New Zealand in my
Yeah, in your hands.
in
And
my
you're like going,
in
"It's
my
there."
email, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh crap, I'm going to New Zealand." And also, it was only like for 2 weeks
Okay,
from the
right.
date that I got the thing. So then I had to be like, "Ah," and like get people to
Yeah.
cover all my gigs and my classes and
Yeah.
and everything like that. But people are super cool, and they. All I had to do was like, I have an opportunity to go to New Zealand. They were like, say no more, we will cover for you.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. People
Yeah.
were great. Yeah. So I came to New Zealand. That was just supposed to be a 5-week tour
Okay.
opening for Billy. And we did all of these like, community hall type spaces,
yeah.
but in like the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
New Zealand, type places, which was amazing, and also just like I couldn't even have fathomed it before I got
Yeah.
on the road.
Yeah.
I'd never even, of course, I knew that New Zealand was a place, but I didn't know anything about it.
Sure.
And I did barely any research before I got on the plane because
Lord
I
of the Rings.
only had to exactly. I was like, "Where are you going? Lord of the Rings place?
Hey!
Well, it's gonna be beautiful."
It will
you know?
be.
Yeah, and it is, and I love
It
it.
is. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because if you put your own music out, that means you're the focal point, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you work on someone else's stuff,
I just like. There must be something about like I just love working with people, you know. And that's the beauty of in the arts. There's so many other art forms that you don't get to work with other people.
yeah,
And like all of my friends essentially are musicians.
yeah,
And the majority of them I play in bands with.
okay, yep,
These are the people I know, and I work with them, you know, my friends I work with, and they are my friends. I don't live out of that world.
you've
really.
kind of got your
So I'm only
your
good
niche,
at one thing.
and
Well,
that
it's not like I'm happy to be friends with everyone.
yeah.
I'm
You're a sociable guy.
yeah. Oh, I'm very, very, very. I'm always at the dinner parties and. But there's like something about being in the environment. You're in a room together with whether it's a band is. Well, you could call a 2-piece, but when it comes to a band, it's going to be a 3-piece up to, it's Crooked Cops is 7, I think.
Yeah.
7 of us.
Wow.
Maybe. Some, like, that sort of amount. Too many people to have in a band. It's, and it's such a community and family sort of vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, it's so cool. You know, and everyone's your friend, and you're working with them. They're your friend, and like everyone loves each other in the room, and they're all, and like that's what I'm into. So maybe it's like saying that I don't love myself enough, but me going out and doing anything on my own is just, I just don't see the point. It's just not as enjoyable.
Right,
as
okay.
doing things with other
Yeah.
people.
It's that spirit of collaboration.
Yeah, the collaboration, and I like to grab things out of other people, and everyone's got something to give.
Yeah.
Even if they don't think they do, you can always sneak something out of somebody.
Sometimes it's just about extracting an idea.
Yeah.
And
I
then-
like it when you get people who don't think that they're creative, and then you can
Yeah.
like sneakily get something out of them,
Yeah.
just by going back and forth, and all of a sudden it's there, 'cause everybody's got it in them, especially musically, because everybody listens to music.
Yeah.
Hey, like people who don't listen, if you meet someone who says, no, I don't listen to music, then they're not human. They should.
Those people are
agrees.
those people are very few. I think that's probably like that. They would be the exception, right?
Yeah.
Not the rule. Because I mean, we've all listened to music in one form or another, whether it's even if it's something like a jingle on a radio or a commercial, on TV, like I'd like to teach the world to sing. That Coca-Cola ad, for example.
Yep.
Some people can't rattle off songs or artists, but they can.
A Coca-Cola ad.
Yeah, it's a Coca-Cola ad.
That's right.
Yep, that was a Coca-Cola ad in the 70s. But, some people can rattle off little, 30-second jingles because that's what they remember, because that, you have to create a memorable piece of music in a short space of time. So jingles are good, whereas songs and albums and the 17-minute prog rock
Yeah. So the way that,
exercises,
and we've talked about it recently, of like listening to music intensely.
Yes.
is one thing, but everyone listens to music at least casually and enjoys it.
Yep.
Yeah, so the people who don't, the people who make a point of not doing it,
Yep.
those are bad people. In my mind, I will go out there and say that. Matthew Sheppard says those are bad.
Well, I think the important thing
Or
is,
there's something wrong with you.
even nowadays, by osmosis, you're going to listen to music.
Yeah.
If you go shopping for groceries, Countdown's got music playing. New World's got music playing. You're listening to music. It's whether or not you're an active listener or not.
Well, you have to like it. If you hate it,
Or you wouldn't go shopping.
Yeah.
You wouldn't walk in there and go, damn it, not Coldplay again! And then leave.
Yeah, I do.
Try working there, bro.
I've worked in a supermarket.
Haven't we all?
Um,
So there you go, everyone. The first in our series celebrating New Zealand Music Month with some of the amazing artists, musicians. I keep saying artists, but they are artists, but we are focusing on musicians on this one. Just sort of having been involved in Northland, or having travelled abroad as well, because some of these artists have been international. So it is very, very cool, and it's interesting because we've had a few people from sort of different backgrounds and stuff like that. So getting that perspective of their time within music within New Zealand and also in Northland as well. So very, very cool. Thank you for checking out the first one. We really do appreciate it. I'm going to flick to my camera again. Where can you find more podcasts about us? I'm going to quickly run through it all now. I'm going to keep the outros a little bit short. So you can find us on the video on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all Northland Artists Conversation. For the audio, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Podcasts. Again, Northland Artists Conversation. And if you want to do it even simpler than that, just go to Google or your browser of choice, and type in Northland Artists Conversation. Somewhere in amongst there, you'll find us. We're pretty easily found. We're the one and only, the original, the OG. And if you'd like to be on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. Either contact us through our socials or email us hello@northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. Super simple. It's how we like to do things around here. By the time this podcast's out, we'll have been celebrating 3 years. Man, that's crazy. Unbelievably crazy. Going to flick back to my wide. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the first podcast celebrating New Zealand Music Month, its 25th anniversary. On behalf of editor Lee J, producer Andrew, engineer Steve, and myself, Mark Kelly, thank you very much for choosing to tune into the Northland Artists Conversation. We'll see you guys real soon.